Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first official Pittsburgh event for the Vote for Our Future campaign. We are so excited to have you all here with us today, and I'm so excited to introduce our Pittsburgh fellow who is leading our operations on the ground in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Leandra Mira.
Hey everyone, I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so happy to be a part of such an amazing event and such an amazing campaign.
Thanks, Leandra. My name is Jonah Gottlieb, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of the National Children's Campaign. And I'd just love to give a brief overview on the NCC and on the Vote for Our Future campaign and talk about why this work that we're doing right now is so important to be fighting for our generation. And so the National Children's Campaign launched because we need our government to be fighting for everyone, not just those that are old enough to vote. And so since there's no shadowy billionaire that's secretly bribing politicians to help kids, the only way to beat these giant systems of oppression that are standing in our way is through mass mobilization and youth action and intergenerational action of everyone coming together and fighting for the youngest and most vulnerable people in our country. And so we launched the Vote for Our Future campaign in partnership with the youth climate justice organization 0 Hour in order to make sure that every single person who cares about kids is voting like they care about kids and mobilizing on behalf of our generation and making sure that they're taking to the streets and taking to the polls to demand justice and to demand action on behalf of our generation. And so before I pass it over to Leandra, a couple things to plug. This is obviously part of a much larger campaign with things from now through Election Day. And so our next event that we have is actually tomorrow. And so if you want to check that out, go to voteforourfuture.org/events. It's going to be focused on Detroit and why Detroit needs a Green New Deal and what people in Michigan can be doing to take action for the Vote for Our Future campaign. We also today just launched our merch. And so if you want to buy t-shirts, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, everything like that, here's some cool designs, different things. You can get them at voteforourfuture.org/merch. And last but not least, before I pass things over to Leandra, we have some amazing voter registration tools on our website right now. And so we need every single person registering to vote if they're eligible. And if they're not eligible, encouraging everyone in their lives to vote on their behalf. And so for that, you can go to voteforourfuture.org/vote and get information on how to register to vote in 2 minutes. You can get information on how to vote by mail, which is so important right now in the age of this pandemic, and so many more great tools to help you have a voice in our democracy this November. So please get involved. Go to voteforourfuture.org. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to our amazing Pittsburgh fellow and the moderator for today's event, Leandra.
Okay, y'all. So today we have a Pittsburgh Roundtable, or we have 2 Pittsburgh Roundtables. The first one is a community activist roundtable, which has 3 amazing youth community organizers. So we're going to learn a little bit more about their work and the issues that they focus on and why they feel that voting is so important. So yeah, let's get them on the screen and start this roundtable. How are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Great. So I was thinking we could just start off by going around and introducing ourselves. Tell us your name, age, pronouns, and a little bit about yourself and your work.
Cool, so I guess I'll go first. My name is Amelia. I'm 17 and I'm a rising senior now in high school. My pronouns are she, her, and I guess my project is to draw attention to activists in the area through art.
My name is Ben Gucho. I'm 18. I'm also a rising senior here in Pittsburgh, and I'm from the organization Casa San Jose, and my work is mostly based with immigration and community organizing for social and civic engagement, which is why I'm here today.
Cool. So Nick might be having some technical difficulties. So I'm just going to start with the first question, and whenever he comes back in, we'll just fill him in. But I'd like to hear more about if either of you focus on a specific issue and how that issue manifests itself in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. But yeah, so I've been focusing on two, I guess, major issues, although my focus is not very specific. I draw essential workers and community organizers, and I try to signal boost, their experiences and their efforts by adding a quote and asking them for a place where we should donate, right? So whether it's a personal Venmo or GoFundMe or just like Doctors Without Borders, I think that it's really important to, boost the voices of people who are actually going through that situation. And instead of, it really helps to be able to know where to, donate and like spread your wealth and where to focus.
For me, I guess I'm across the board. Being a community organizer entails a lot of different things, even if for me, it's specifically about social and civic engagement. But a recent project that I just finished right now is creating a youth leadership team that kind of emphasizes activism and leadership in Pittsburgh, specifically for Latino youth. Just because as immigrants and as Latino immigrants, oftentimes you're considered almost a third-class citizen. You're told to go back to your country, or you don't belong here, or jump back over the border. That you get treated less, and it takes away a lot of your self-worth, and you believe that you're less than and that you're not as powerful as other people. So the key for this program that I created, it's called The Future of Latino Youth in Pittsburgh, is essentially to give fellow youth the abilities and the necessary techniques to dream and design and develop the world into a better place and a more accepting society for all of us.
That's so great. And Nick, all that you missed was we just introduced ourselves, said our names, ages, pronouns, and a little bit about ourselves and our work, and then went into more depth about the issue that we focus on in Pittsburgh and how it manifests specifically in Pittsburgh.
Oh, sorry that I'm late, but I'm Nick, and this is Giuseppe.
Hello.
We're part of Blacking Educated, a youth-led organization in Pittsburgh that is like leading Civil Saturdays, which is a protest a weekly protest where we protest for the amendment of Section 508, the use of force law in Pennsylvania.
Turn the camera.
Yeah, so I've actually attended a bunch of the Civil Saturdays protests, and they're absolutely amazing. So I'd love to start with the first question for Nick and ask, what has your experience been in Pittsburgh with organizing protests? Sorry, that stutter was so bad. Okay, I think his service may be lagging. So Ben, I'd love to ask you, many people aren't aware that immigration is something important to focus on in Pittsburgh. Can you tell us about your work with the CASA?
Yeah, definitely. So in Pittsburgh, I think one of the biggest issues we have is the segregation within the city. With the history of redlining all over the United States, people forget that different areas, districts are just kind of separated by race, by color, by ethnicity, by socioeconomic status. And for the Latinx population here in Pittsburgh, that is especially true, that the majority of this population lives in one area, specifically in Beachview and in Brookline. Obviously, that isn't saying everybody lives there. Not all Latinos live in that area, but the majority do. So people forget and sometimes don't realize that ICE is very active in Pittsburgh. They are very powerful, but most people don't realize it because they're not on your streets. They're not in your neighborhood. They only come to one area where they kind of pick up everybody, whether it's making fake doctor's offices to bring in people to trick them because they don't have papers, or they're just picking people up on the streets or beating people up. It's a big issue because most people don't realize the effect that it has on the community because it's so segregated within the city. Which is why CASA is based within these neighborhoods to help and advocate for their rights and make sure that the immigrant population, whether they are Hispanic or if they're not, they could be from other kind of ethnicities or races, but just so that the immigrant population as a whole knows their rights and kind of knows what to do in situations where they might not feel like they have power or they might not know the rules or the laws that kind of govern them.
Yeah, so this weekend, I know that you organized something really cool under the FLY program. So I'd love to ask you about why you've centered youth in your programs, and maybe if you could tell us more about those programs here in Pittsburgh.
Completely. So this FLY program, it's FLY Pittsburgh, the Future of Latino Youth in Pittsburgh is what it stands for. And the reason why it's based on youth is because with really any social change, it tends to start with the younger generation. There's this new group of people and there's so much, potential for things to change. And for the Latinx community in general, voting has always been very difficult. Whether it's because of citizenship or just voter discrimination, which is why activism and leadership is so important, which is why I created this program in the first place, to show and kind of emphasize and create more Latino voices here in the city. Because when you can't vote, if you're underage or if you don't have papers, it's good to kind of share your story and explain kind of the hardships, the experiences, and everything that goes into your lives that so many people don't see. And this weekend, what we did was it was a 2-day retreat, and it was very much with team bonding and talking about kind of identity and seeing ourselves and seeing how we can be oppressive towards others. We learned about the cycle of oppression and how it works in defining what stereotype is, the difference between stereotype and prejudice, and what institutional oppression is and how that shows up, whether it's dress code or ICE, but then also learning about how to break that cycle, how to free yourself from the cycle of oppression and liberate. And it was a great opportunity for this group to learn and not just meet each other, but become a family and get to know one another. But then at the same time, kind of take in all of this knowledge and learn from one another because we're all different, but that's kind of the beauty of it. And it really helped us with creating all of these different changes. And we have a new a project coming up. So we're really excited for that too.
That sounds so powerful. So I'd like to direct a question to Amelia. With Nick and Ben, their organizing is on the ground in person, but your activism is really interesting because it's through art and it's also virtual. So I'd love to ask how that project came about and if you could tell the audience a little bit more about specifically what you do and why you decided to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that I've been interested in activism for a long time. And with this, outpouring of information and protests, I think it's important that we find a balance, newer activists especially, and people who, have privilege, find a balance between not stepping on other people's toes who are more educated and actually might live that experience versus trying to, help the cause somehow. So I think that for me also, it's hard for me to go to protest because I live with someone who's at risk for COVID. So I think that this is through art and through creative means, it's a really powerful way to tell people stories. So during the pandemic, I think that we've been, especially, with our governments, have been doing a lot of performative things to commend or to recognize activists and essential workers. So they'll clap for them, or they'll say oh, we support it, or they'll write a letter saying oh, we support these changes, but really not a lot of institutional change happens and their demands aren't really listened to. So I think that a form of direct action that we can take is instead of just, taking part in this performative action, then being oh, we feel better now. I think that one thing that newer activists can do is to help drive attention in the right places and also just talk to people and hear about their experiences. So basically I started, reaching out to essential workers in my area and later on community activists, and then also, over social media. And I think that it was powerful to hear, about people's lived experiences. You can read about it on the news, but it doesn't compare to actually hearing about it from someone's point of view, or hearing someone's thoughts on organizing from a point of view of someone who's a seasoned organizer. So I think that, and also, with art, anyone can do it. Like, I don't think that I'm the most, talented person out there. You don't have to, be good at it. But I think that, or, of course that's subjective, but I think that it's a really great way to tell someone's story and share their voice and draw attention, I guess, to them.
I'd like to just correct her and say her art is absolutely beautiful and wonderful. So I'd like to ask the next question is there something that you've learned from speaking to so many different people in your project, and what is it?
Yeah, so I think that it's that we can do small actions and, to support people, but they really have to be direct. So I think that, for example, instead of like clapping for essential workers, that sure can be like a great gesture, but I think that it's more effective to, start listening to them directly. Donate if they're in need, donate to their personal, Venmos or Cash Apps. And mutual aid funds are also a really great way to distribute, goods to people who are in need of it. So I think that I kind of learned that, although your actions can be small as, donating a cup of coffee, there's still a more direct gesture and a way of, helping out that doesn't like tread on someone else's work or go into a space that's already, or drive attention away from, organizations that are already doing really great work. And I think that that's a powerful way to, help people and to start getting involved in activism. With community organizers, it was great to hear, about their perspectives on organizing. I think that it's really difficult to organize because it not only involves, all the like logistic things, but also building, a coalition of people who are interested and want to like speak out. I think that that's really difficult, and hearing about, directly from people about why they want to organize and their like actual perspectives on organizing has also been really interesting.
That was beautiful. So I'd like to ask now to both of you, after your experiences organizing and being activists in Pittsburgh, do you guys feel like youth voices are amplified enough? And what ways in the future do you think that we should continue to center youth voices in Pittsburgh? And either of you can take that whenever you want.
I mean, for me personally, I think I wouldn't say that youth voices are amplified enough. I think that they're really only now starting to get credit and starting to get seen. I think people kind of look at it in a weird way as like in the news, our generation, Generation Z, and even millennials were getting more attention for speaking out, but that's because there was almost none before. There was so little. But if you're comparing it to adults, if you're comparing it to the other side, if that makes any sense, there's a lot of people that have been speaking out forever that are older than us, but only now the young generation is really stepping up. But by nowhere, I would say, is it equal, in the sense of if you look at the people who are still kind of talking, still ruling, it's not us. It's still not the youth, and we're now starting to gain attention, starting to gain confidence and power and kind of a place in society. But I think that there's still a lot of work to be done, because our voices are powerful, and I think people are starting to realize that now. But yeah, was there a second part to the question?
I don't remember. It was a little bit off the top of my head because I have to make some time because Nick isn't on the roundtable. I think it was, how can Pittsburgh in the future center youth voices? Exactly. And you can talk more about the FLY program and how La Casa has been like expanding to get more youth voices.
And I would say that like FLY and what I'm doing right now with my group is definitely one way to go about it. And if you look at other organizations, there's similar kind of youth programs. But I think in general, one of the best ways are events like this, Of course, within an organization, it is great and wonderful, and it's very necessary to have these programs centered around youth voice and youth empowerment. But working with each other, with different organizations, with different kind of issues and seeing their intersection, I think is very powerful. So having roundtables with different voices and different perspectives, all from youth, I think that is one of the best ways to empower ourselves. Because it's not just about me or my organization, it's about you guys too. It's not just about being on the ground and having a big voice and yelling in front of people. It's also about making art and music and talking to others and reaching out, because it's really just getting your voice, getting your story told. And there's so many different ways to go about it. And I think that that's part of being a leader. You don't have to kind of fit into this little box of, I have to be Greta or I have to be MLK if I want to consider myself an activist. You can do it by drawing or singing or dancing or whatever it is. And I think that is one of the best things for our generation, and the way that we can reach more people is just by using all of these different techniques.
So Amelia, I wanted to ask quickly, because earlier you made a really interesting point about how there's many different ways to support a movement without stepping on toes. And I'd love to ask, what ways have you found that you can support people's work from home? And what ways can we support your work? And then Ben, you can tell us what ways we can support your work from home and for the people watching.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that one, way to do it is through direct financial contribution. I think that honestly helps people because, for example, if you're organizing a protest, especially like now, you're going to need a lot of supplies. You're going to need masks, face shields, all this stuff is really important. So I think that one way you can do that is, signal boost people either by, creating work that honors them and, shares their experience. And I think that, of course, you can also just like directly financially contribute yourself too. But I think that there are a lot of volunteer opportunities. So for example, for Blacking Educated, there's, a volunteer page on their site. You can help, organize with them. Ben, if there are any ways to, help volunteer with Fly, I think, that would be really cool too. So I think that, there are a lot of ways that you can share your time, especially now. I see that education is becoming a really important thing. A lot of us did not get a proper education when it comes to like systemic racism and, those problems that plague our society. And I think that, especially if you, can design and you can convey, that well, that's a really good way to contribute to the movement. Also, I think just listening to people, it helps not only you develop a better, perspective of the world that's more nuanced, but I think it also helps people, amplify their own voices.
I completely agree with all of that. And I think just to, for my organization in specific, I think donations are very, very important, because some of the work that we do, for example, money and food distribution, a lot of the community that we work for aren't getting stimulus checks, or it's a lot more difficult. And again, the money runs out faster. The jobs, they're called essential workers now, but beforehand they were told to go back to their country. We're calling them essential workers today now that we're in a pandemic, but also think about that demographic that is carrying the food, that is working all day, every day in construction and everything. And I think really helping out these communities, whether it's giving food or money or clothes, is really important. And then going on to education, just staying informed. I said this in the last broadcast, but it's much of a choice to be ignorant during these times. You have the ability to go out and learn, whether you want to look at the website, Google Casa San Jose, Pittsburgh, and Google the website, look at the programs that we do, look at the social medias of these organizations, look at YouTube videos, documentaries, read a book. There's so many different ways to stay educated and to keep on learning. And I think my one last bit of that is to not be afraid of failure, or to realize that you might have gotten something wrong. We've all thought of things or may have had a misconception about something, and that's okay. We all mess up. That's the point of life. And learning from our mistakes, learning from something that we might not have known before, admitting our wrongs, I think is something that's really powerful and is the key to change. You can't change unless you acknowledge that you need to.
So again, I'm going to ask a question for both of you. Earlier, we discussed how youth voices aren't centered enough in Pittsburgh. Why do you guys think that adults have an obligation to stand with our generation and then vote with our generation?
Yeah, so I think that, a lot of youth right now are thinking forward politically. I think that's always been the case. But I think that, it's adults who actually have the power to make structural change. So I'm not saying that, of course, we should well, maybe, but I'm not saying that we should let, 16-year-olds run for office. But I think that, youth voices often, of course, teenagers are sometimes make dumb decisions. But I think that in terms of, the bigger picture, we're really good at looking into the future and being innovative, right? And some may call it idealistic, but I think that being able to imagine a better society is really important to organizing, from what I've read and from what I've heard. So I think that is really important, because often by the time you become an adult, it's like the pressures of society are kind of like, it's already like, can we really change anything? And I think that that's one big reason why youth are able to, look forward. I think that, adults have an obligation, I guess, to stand with youth, because that's the future of their world, right? So it's because I think that, I think, okay, give me a sec. So I think, there are millions of people out there who are like less than 35, right? Who are not going to be able to run for president. And, adults in power have an obligation to cater to those people too.
I would say we're the future. I mean, it's pretty obvious. We are the future. The younger generation, we will grow into that. And that's just how it is. And I think that they owe it to not just our generation, but the ones even younger than us. I think we also have an obligation to those younger than ourselves, to look out for them, to see and make sure that they're growing up and, seeing the world for how it is, but not just the bad, but, the good, the potential that there is. And I think the best way for adults to, I guess, support the youth is to listen. And that sounds so simple, but it's difficult to actively listen and take away what they're talking about, not to take it as a joke or to take it with a grain of salt, but to actually hear them and take what they're saying as, real good advice. For example, I was working at a summer with 11 and 12-year-old. I was working at a summer camp, and I learned more from them than I have from most adults, and their idealism made me think about how good the world could be if people were able to coexist. And I think having that little bit of a kid heart, having that little bit of youth in you allows people to, work together. And I think that is something that adults can really help with, is to kind of keep that spirit alive no matter how old you get, but to keep a little bit of that childhood heart and working with others and, doing the best you can and having that idealism in you. Be a realist, but think about the good. Think about what could come.
Yeah, I definitely feel like youth voices are unreasonably belittled sometimes. So final question, you guys. Any final thoughts for our audience and anything you'd like to add or signal boost?
Yeah, so I think that for me, my final thought is that even if you can't physically be on the ground, there are so many ways that you can, help the movement, so many ways that you can, directly help your community. And I would really urge you to, do it creatively, have some fun with it, and, talk to the people who are on the ground and, just learn from them. Like Ben said, actively listen. And I think that, that's a challenge in and of itself. Imagining a better future is challenging, but I think it's, our responsibility. And I'd like to signal boost, all the great work that, Ben's doing and that Blacking Educated is doing, and that you're doing too, Leandra, and, that the people on the next panel are going to be doing too.
My last thing is to be yourself, be an activist, be a leader, and be who you are. There's no mold, there's no one look, shape, or thing that you need to be to help make positive change. You know, it's the little things. It's the things behind the scenes, not just the live streams, but the hard, the work, the little, all of the above. You know, it counts and it makes a difference, and people will see it. They'll appreciate it. So do the work you can, even if it's little. You know, something.
We have a motivational speaker on the round table. Thank you guys so much for sitting here and answering these questions for us. This wraps up the first panel or the first roundtable. Thank you guys again. And yeah, right now we're going to begin getting the panelists for the climate roundtable. This panel is intergenerational and it's going to focus primarily on climate because in Pittsburgh, environmental issues, environmental racism, fracking, pollution are really, really, really huge issues. A lot of communities are devastated by the environmental injustice here. So we have a great list of panelists that are going to talk about that right now. How are you guys?
Hi.
Great. Hi.
So I'd love it if we could just go around and introduce ourselves. Just say your name, your preferred pronouns, and a little bit about yourself and your work. Tiffany, you can start.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffany, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I am from about an hour and a half north of Pittsburgh. I live in a small town called Meadville, and I have just been working to learn as much about environmental justice and injustices that impact my community as a Pennsylvanian and as a community that suffers from food insecurity and doesn't have access to a lot of things that more affluent communities do. So yeah, I have been working through the intersections of the Green New Deal, and this past fall-ish summer, I just started like a community group and organization called the Green New Deal Coalition, and we're just trying to bring awareness about what the Green New Deal is and what that means for different communities, especially with an emphasis on Northwestern Pennsylvania. And I also started an environmental club at my high school this year too, and I'm a rising senior, so.
Hi, I'm Hudson Wagner. I'm a rising senior at Penn State. I'm 21 and my pronouns are he, him. So I guess my work at Penn State is now focusing on just kind of getting the administration and the university itself to take some real legitimate steps towards like climate action. Penn State, it's a huge institution, can swing a lot of weight within the state as well as nationally. And there's a lot of work that it could be doing that is currently not, that could be really helpful locally and globally.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Jillian Graber, and I'm the Executive Director of Protect PT. We're in Penn Trafford School District, which is, east of Pittsburgh, about 45 minutes. And we're in Westmoreland County. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And we've been organizing since about 2015 to stop fracking that has been really inundated in our community and try to protect our kids and the future for our children.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Ned Katire. My pronouns are he, him. I am just so proud of all of you, and I'm very proud to be here. I am a retired pediatrician now. I write a pediatric blog called the Pedia Blog, and been doing that for almost 8 years now. I'm a member of the American Academy of Pediatrics Council on Environmental Health. I'm also a board member for Physicians for Social Responsibility Pennsylvania, and a consultant for Southwest Pennsylvania Environmental Health Project. And finally, I am a climate reality project leader trained in Pittsburgh in 2017. Again, I'm just so happy to be here. I am so proud of you. I thought, Leandra, I thought the last panel did a really great job.
Thank you so much, Ned. The feeling is mutual. So I'd like to begin with the first question being, can you guys share how you became involved in climate organizing? And Tiffany, you can start.
Okay. It's, for me, kind of interesting because I feel like I never really, I guess, looked to get into it. It was just something that I feel like I fell into pretty naturally. So yeah, I had just been looking to get involved in more ways in my community and speak up about things that I saw that I thought we could improve on. And then I had just literally met this group of like-minded individuals. This is so insane that it just like happened this way. And we just like formed a coalition, and like that was how like it happened for me. It was like a super like natural like process, and I like when I recall like how it happened, it's so insane that it just was so like practical like that. And then so I took the energy and momentum and passion I had from the community work and just had, I feel like, transported that and initiated that in my school with my club. So yeah, that's kind of how I started. But I guess from a young age, I've always just noticed some things that I didn't sit well with me, and some things that I could use my voice to speak out on. And then I just did and found some folks who also were trying to do the same thing. So
Yeah, I'd say I grew up pretty aware of climate change and its effects, doing some simple like recycling program stuff in high school. And then I kind of got plopped on campus, and you kind of look around first year and you see some things that you see could be changed or could be done better. Start asking some questions and looking for groups that you believe focuses on that. And eventually, you find yourself in a community, and that's one of the most fun things is a lot of people around you doing good work. It turns into fun, and the vision kind of grows. And that's been absolutely one of the more rewarding things is the work turns into fun almost, even though it is tough, I'll say that.
I'll say that I started out with a couple neighbors, and we started organizing to stop what was 2 well pads, and then it was 7 well pads, and then it was 12 well pads in our community. And for me, it was really kind of a fight to keep my kids safe. But that really made me realize that there's other things that that I need to do to keep my kids safe. And one of those things is to fight for the climate. So I started getting them involved, and then they wanted to go with me to places and get involved in the climate march, which, we met Leandra on the city county building steps. And then they went to Harrisburg with me to talk to the governor. So yeah, that's kind of how we got involved, knowing that the pollution and the stuff that was causing the pollution was also causing climate change.
And I've been interested in environmental health since I was very young, middle school, high school, growing up in industrial New Jersey, which was America's first cancer alley. I was very aware of the environment around me back then and pretty disgusted by it. One reason why when it was time for me to go to college, I chose the University of Vermont, which is a very environmentally aware campus, always has been and still is. And then as a pediatrician, I chose pediatrics because I know that the future of children, your future, that's the future. That's really what we need to be working with. climate change is something that is a subject that involves so many disciplines of science, chemistry, biology, physics, astronomy, geology. It's really very fascinating, things that I've been interested in for a long time. So it was natural for me to get involved in climate change and advocacy for climate change and health. I was asked when I retired by PSR to become a board member, and I'm not good at saying no, so I said yes. I've known about PSR for a long time. The folks at Environmental Health Project said, well, if you retire, we'll keep you busy. And they didn't lie. They've kept me busy helping families and communities understand the risks that they face from all the fracking that's happening here in Southwest Pennsylvania. And you can connect all the dots and understand that fracking is related to climate change, and that it accelerates climate change. And you can't be fracking for gas or fracking for oil or mining coal and burning those things, and also expecting to have any meaningful improvement in the climate situation. You can't have it both ways. So it's really time to say bye-bye to fossil fuels and hello to a cleaner and healthier, and for you, more prosperous future.
It's really interesting that Jillian and Ned, both of you sort of spoke about how your climate organizing centers around youth, and both of you were pulled into this work through wanting to keep young people safe. So I'd like to ask both of you if you could answer why you've centered your work around children and why it's so important to open up discussions about the health of children when we discuss environmental issues. And Jillian, you can start.
Well, I'm a mom and I think that's it. I mean, right. I felt like it was my responsibility as a mother to protect them.
And you do a great job of that.
And I'm a sap, so I get a little teared up when I talk about my kids.
Completely understandable.
But like what really surprised me is them wanting to speak up too. Like that's what really got me proud.
Their speeches were so amazing at the climate change. So
oh my gosh. So and I mean, when we went to Harrisburg, this was with the Better Path Coalition last year. We were supposed to go this year, but COVID-19 happened. So we went last year, and the governor was not gonna. He didn't want to see the kids, and they were all dressed up as the Lorax. They were really cute. And I mean, like there were, I don't know, 50 or more kids. I mean, who wouldn't want to see 50 kids dressed up as the Lorax? But he tried to sneak in his office and not see us. And then my son heard about that, and he was like, well, I don't think that's right. I don't think that he doesn't want to hear what we have to say, and that's not okay with me. and I learned that day that like he really had something important to say. And I just wanted to like foster that and just keep them safe and let them grow, let them support them in whatever they needed or wanted to do.
Amazing. Ned?
Well, my motivation comes from my 3 adult sons who I'm a dad also, and it's really everything. When you have kids and you hold them in your arms as babies and then you watch them grow up, you understand that it's the best thing you'll ever create in your life. And it's the most important thing. And I understand that also as as being a pediatrician, where I've devoted my learning, my teaching, and all my efforts really on improving the health of children. And understanding that there are a lot of obstacles in the way of children's health, children's growth and development, children's happiness. And those obstacles more or less come from the adults in their lives. And we need to find ways to remove those obstacles. And probably the best way to do it, I think, is is those people of my generation, it's time to get out of the way. The future's here. You are it. And I'm sorry to say you're on your own, but you're not. You have us to support you. And, but it's time for us to move out of the way. And since we're not doing enough, it's time for you to start doing things.
Thank you for that, Ned. So Tiffany, I'd like to ask you if you could tell us more about your environmental organizing and what ways you've organized in your school or with the MCC.
Yeah, so when I started my group and we formed a coalition, a lot of that work was just kind of demystifying what the Green New Deal is, and what it means in the context of our community. And I think, I feel like our media presence now almost demonizes the concept and makes it out to be a very confusing subject, which obviously the climate crisis and climate justice is multifaceted and has so many different complexities. But I think the root of our work was really just kind of trying to break it down for everyday folks who are impacted by this. So we have been holding a series of town halls and just describing what the Green New Deal is and how it can fit into our community. And so one of our earliest ones last September, actually a Pittsburgh City Councilwoman, Patricia DeMarco, was there, and she spoke to us and to the folks that we had invited about the importance of a sustainable future in cities and what Pittsburgh is doing and what she's been pushing for Pittsburgh for a very long time. And I think I really just transitioned that and carried that kind of just deconstructing and trying to make it more comprehensible for people to understand what the climate crisis is into my work at my school. And so again, we've just held other like town halls and workshops where we just kind of pinpoint and target specific elements of the climate crisis. For example, in my town, we experience a lot of flooding, but that flooding disproportionately impacts a poor community of my town. And so we've talking about the intersections in climate crisis and how that deals with infrastructure and also how that deals with poor folks or communities of color. And so really, we've just really like honed in and targeted on that. And then we're also doing a lot of work trying to speak to our representatives who are running for local office, either in our congressional district or either ways. So we're in Erie and Crawford County, and we've had a few candidate panels to just really meet one-on-one with the candidates and see what they value, and also see like how we can be of guidance to them and really amplify the needs of their constituents as it pertains to the climate. So
that's such important work. So I'd like to ask Hudson more about his climate organizing at Penn State. I know here at the University of Pittsburgh, we have an amazing group called Fossil Free Pitt, and they focus on divestment. But I'd love to hear more about what the PSU Climate Action Team focuses on and what some of your goals are.
So what we've been focusing on is just some broad action that the university can take. So for a long time, there's been some scattered clubs, organizations, and even like Penn State sponsored branches of the university that have focused on environmental activism and what the university can do. But what we think our group can do now with Penn State Climate Action is bring everything together and bring something to the table for the administration and the university to actually do. So we would love to see things like divestment. You know, we're bringing that into the conversation, bringing sustainable education, and even just operations, like cleaning up of operations. You know, getting carbon dioxide emissions reduced. And so far, they've done very good with operations reduction in carbon dioxide. I think since 2003, it's down to like 66% of what it used to be, which is impressive. But at every step of the way in divestment discussions, we've been told, well, the students have the real voice here. You know, we have some people in the administration that would agree with you. We have professors, the faculty senate, that would absolutely agree with you. But we do need push from the students. And that is hard to hear because the students aren't exactly the ones that are being told that they're the ones with the power, right? And they're not being educated on how to use that. So what our group has kind of turned into is some local just organization trying to get the students to use that voice to push the university to actively, aggressively, and consciously, you know, do climate action and push against climate change. So it's turned into a very on-the-ground organization.
So in what ways would you recommend for young people, college students or high school students, to use their voices to achieve something like pushing their school to divest?
Something like divestment is absolutely huge because as soon as you start questioning the money, it turns into a very large conversation. Penn State has historically been a huge energy university, and that's been from coal. And in the last 10 years, it's turned into natural gas. There are natural gas executive members on the board of Penn State, and then we have a couple, our hockey stadium's named after a natural gas executive. So it gets a little tough when you focus on the money. But when you can offer an opportunity for the school to do better, it turns into exactly that, an opportunity. And so what students can do is simply just start asking some questions, find the groups that are doing the work on campus, and kind of just put yourself out there. That's almost one of the toughest things for students, is to find time and then actually spend a couple of nights a week, even just 1 hour a week, to start doing that work and build relationships with the people that are actually doing that work. And like I said earlier, it does turn into fun.
That's really good insight. So I'd like to ask everyone on the panel, and we can start with Jillian, then go to Ned, Tiffany, and Hudson. In what ways can people from home begin thinking about environmental organizing and ways that they can get involved? And what are the ways that you feel most support environmental organizations or the work that you do?
So I think the best thing that folks can do from home is to find an organization that's doing work, or, you know, a club at your school, you know, whatever the case may be, and just meet people and start learning about everything, because, you know, I think knowledge is power, and the more knowledge you have, the more, when you meet people that don't understand why you fight for climate change or why you fight against fracking or whatever it may be, you know, if you have the knowledge to back up what you're talking about, it makes it a lot easier for you to talk with other folks and hopefully change some minds in the process. So I would just say, you know, just get out there and learn who's in your community working, and, you know, support those people and help those people, whether it be volunteering or whether it be getting involved with a program, or starting a new program. Maybe there's not anything in your community. Start one. Start an environmental club in your school. You know, like these guys. That's awesome.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Jillian. I think that knowledge is where you have to start. And in order to gain knowledge, you have to read, you have to listen, you have to think, and think critically, and you know, before you act. The other thing that I would advise, well, certainly people my age, but young people also, is to get outside and go for a walk in the woods. Really don't talk, just look and listen to nature, because the answers are there, and you'll know what to do and how to do about it if you can reflect quietly in nature. So, moving forward, to get organized, you have to be able to speak with people and to listen to people. And when you do that, you can move together. Even as a leader, you have to be careful not to take too much of that power, but spread that power among your peers, and let them feel like they have ownership in the work that all of you are doing. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think my response is pretty similar to Jillian and Ned's, but I definitely just say like read, watch, listen, and act. So read or watch documentaries, read articles from accredited scientists, read about how the foundations of environmentalism actually weren't inclusive at all. And think about how when you're building your climate movement or when you're starting to organize, how you want to put intersectionality at the forefront of that conversation. Listen to those who are often forgotten in these conversations. Listen to how the climate impacts other non-Western countries, and how their voices are often disproportionately not heard. Listen to Indigenous voices, find Indigenous people in your communities, listen to what they have said and have been saying for generations, and invite them into your space, because they were the original stewards of this earth, and amplify their voices. That goes as well as Black and Brown voices and other voices of color who are impacted by this the most. And then look around you and see like what you want to do and where you see problems, and then just think about like some solutions, and then just pick one thing and start with one thing. I know like when I was starting, and I still really feel this way now, it is so overwhelming because I see so many places that need help and need to be talked about and so many discussions. But when you just start with one thing, you'll be able to build that, especially when you're collaborating with other people. So act in that way. And you can start small, like nothing is too small. I know that's really cliche, but it really is true. And yeah, just build over time. So
I agree. I think Tiffany brings up a good point on reaching out to other groups. It's important to realize that not everyone is going to be as excited as you are to face the existential crisis that is climate change. So it's like important to kind of meet people where they are and then bring them with you. So I think that's absolutely huge. I know that on campus, if we could get Greek life involved, that would be absolutely a game changer. But it's not exactly a population that is going to be very excited to do that. So it's important to reach out, start conversations, start small, and even just talk to friends about it. I think just having the conversations does a lot more than a lot of people realize. But then it's going to move into action. What can you do?
Well, thank you guys so much. This has been an amazing conversation, and hopefully this is the start of many more conversations that the NCC will continue to facilitate with amazing people like you guys on climate and environmental issues in Pittsburgh, because it's so important that we talk about it. So yeah, that wraps up the second roundtable. Any final thoughts? Anything you guys want to add with your goodbyes, or are we good?
Thank you, Leandra. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Hudson. Of course, Jillian, my friend, thank you very much. I really, like I said before, I'm really proud of you. You guys are going in the right direction. I'm happy to support as much as possible, but this is your gig, and you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Ned.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Leandra, for moderating, and thank you, Ned and Jillian and Hudson. It was really great to meet you all, and I hope we can stay connected. So,
Nice to meet you all too. Take care.
Okay, thank you guys. Bye. Have a great night. So hopefully you guys learned something new tonight. And if you were interested in that discussion and want to hear more, there's going to be a virtual fracking tour on August 13th, which will open up that discussion about environmental issues in Southwestern PA much more.
Yeah, and so Dr. Ned will be participating in that, so we highly encourage you to tune into that. Again, August 13th. If you want more information, voteforOurFuture.org/events is the place to go. First of all, great job, Leandra. She's worked an insane amount of hours these past few weeks putting together this series of roundtables, and she's going to keep doing even more as we move forward. Leandra's going to talk in a second about ways to join the team that she and the other folks from the NCC are putting together. And she's going to be joined by one of our other youth team members in a second. But before they do that, I'm just going to quickly plug one more time. If you want to get merch, voteforourfuture.org/merch. And so awesome shirts like this, you can get them as hoodies. You can get them in different colors. I really like this one in gray. If you like it in pink, if you like it in blue, if you like it in black, check it out. This one as well. Here's the back. And here's the front. Again, you can get it as long sleeve, short sleeve, beautiful, beautiful design. Yeah, I'll move to the side too, so you can see me. So please check out the merch. And of course, this is a joint campaign with 0 Hour, and so tomorrow, their Detroit fellows are hosting a presentation about the Detroit need for a Green New Deal in Michigan, and how that relates. And so we'll be doing something similar with Pittsburgh, with Philadelphia, with other Pennsylvania communities, and they are taking on this town hall tomorrow, or roundtable presentation tomorrow for Pittsburgh. So please voteforOurFuture.org/events if you want to get involved. And lastly, before I pass it over to Leandra, we have a National Children's Campaign podcast. So please check that out. It's called Our Future Now. And you can get it wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. I'm going to take this graphic down so I can move back and not hurt my neck, and pass it over to Leandra and Ava for some closing thoughts. Thank you all so much for watching.
Jonah, I just want you to know that my birthday is August 17th, and I want a pink merch t-shirt for it. So I'll send you my P.O. box so I can get that.
We'll talk about that.
Okay, hi Ava, how are you? Uh-oh. Well, that wraps up the roundtable for today. Ava can join us when she feels ready. A big thank you to all the speakers who participated. Thank you so much for continuing your advocacy for these issues and doing your amazing work in Pittsburgh and sharing that with us today. I definitely like to reemphasize that we are so thankful for your time, and I really, hey Ava.
Hello.
So how do you feel after those roundtables?
They were so informative, and I just think overall it went incredibly.
Do you have a favorite moment?
I definitely do. I think hearing Jillian speak about her kids and her concern for them was incredibly impactful. And it's honestly heartbreaking that fear over climate change is such a reality for children and their families.
Right. Especially here in Western PA, where we have like current adverse health effects affecting communities all over, and it's so widespread. And those roundtables just made me really grateful that I can vote because I can have my voice heard.
Exactly. Unfortunately, I'm 16. I'm a child. I know. And I'm not of age to vote. But that's what this whole campaign is about. I'm not able to vote, but neither of many of today's speakers. But that doesn't mean I'm not impacted by these issues the same way.
Yeah, and that brings up another point. The NCC has something called vote tripling. So if you are under the age of 18, get 3 adults in your life to commit to voting on behalf of children's issues. And many of those issues were discussed tonight. And yeah, click the link or go to the link later if you were interested. And we are still currently putting together a team in Pittsburgh. So please contact us if you're interested in being a part of the team. And thank you again. Thank you so much to the participants on the roundtables. You guys did so amazing. And thank you for sharing your time with us and sharing your expertise and your experiences. And yeah, thank you all for watching. I think that closes it out, right?
Yeah, thank you so much for everyone who came out, and thank you to the incredible speakers and all the organizers who helped plan the event. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to support the work that these incredible youth speakers are doing here in Pittsburgh, and make sure to support youth in your own community as well.
Thank you so much, Ava. I guess bye.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Tune into the Detroit Roundtable on the Green New Deal tomorrow and check out that presentation. And again, voteforourfuture.org/events to find updates on all the new things that we'll be doing throughout the summer, throughout the fall, and through Election Day on November 3rd to make sure that you're fully participating with the Vote for Our Future campaign. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.